Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. We're taking a quick look here at the crypto market overview, the likelihood of the price action pulling back or going higher from here, and obviously some important fundamental catalysts, specifically unemployment data for tomorrow, and that we may be in a potential warning situation for us. And if that were to happen, we may not be in fantastic shape for traditional markets. That could flow into altcoins and of course Bitcoin as well. So be sure to stick around. We got an important one today. Let's take a look. All right, folks, before we jump into this juicy data, let's go ahead and take a quick look at some polls on the back end here for crypto Twitter. And majority of you are feeling we're going to be going up from here, and the bottom is in. We got about 46% of you feeling that we're going to be going up from this 109.5K support range. When we look at crypto YouTube, it's a little different here, however. We're seeing about the same percentage, think we're going to go a little bit lower. It may be because people are looking at videos like this, perhaps, I'm not sure, but these are my competitors, folks. Cool stuff, right? Anyways, comment below if you think that's kind of funny. And I actually got some folks actually asking about creating a channel in our Discord for just ridiculous thumbnails. And I might actually consider doing that. Feel free to let me know below if you are interested in that. And obviously, if you're not part of our Discord, go ahead and jump on in. Just a quickly note here with unemployment data, it does look like we're going to be seeing a 4.2% hold steady rate here, essentially. So ideally, that happens, we're in good shape, all things good to go. But the truth is we got some fundamentals coming up this month that are big deals that are going to lead to a lot of velocity, or sorry, it'll change the velocity, obviously, of course, of the direction, but more specifically, it'll give us a lot of volatility. That's the word I was looking for. So when we look here, September 5th, unemployment data, that's tomorrow. 10th and 11th is PPI and CPI. Those will have a pretty big impact. And of course, we got interest rate meeting too. So these are all things that are going to be kind of shifting the dynamic. So you got to kind of be used to or okay with these large swings right now. Unfortunately, it's just kind of par for the course. I'm not super worried about this pullback personally, but that's just me. I never tend to overreact. Now let's take a look here at some quick data here, just kind of give you some perspective. We're seeing a 6-to-1 ratio for liquidations, which is quite significant. Actually, maybe more like 4-to-1 or 3-to-1 now, but we've got 53 million in long liquidation delta or long liquidations for Ethereum and 17 million in short. So that kind of implies that we are at a 3-to-1 ratio for the correction on Ethereum versus a 2-to-1 ratio for Bitcoin. It basically tells us how well or poorly these coins are responding to Bitcoin's pullback. So we're seeing a little bit more of that knee-jerk reaction right now. Now let's go ahead and take a look here on the front end and see kind of what this tells us here. We are still in the low neutral to upper fear greed index, right? So ultimately, a situation where you generally want to buy. Now, I'm not trying to tell you to buy these dips at all points. Obviously, everyone's trading strategy is different. But the concept here is that we shouldn't be shaken out of our trades just yet because altcoin season index is still high. We still have a large market capitalization there. Okay, anything over 1.5 trillion is usually a pretty safe place to not be super concerned with your trades. Now, obviously, every trade is different and every coin is very different too. You can see there's some outliers here, right? So be very careful in how you invest and obviously pay attention to key level supports. But majority of altcoins, also the ones we're going to be looking at today, are responding pretty well to the overall pullback here, and they haven't lost their key level supports yet. So just some things to be mindful of there. Other than that, let's go ahead and take a look at the back-end liquidation data, kind of go from there, and just kind of recognize a few important factors. So first of all, we broke our descending trend line. That's positive, all right? And to clarify, I'm not going to try to sugarcoat things here today or tell you what you want to hear. The truth is, bullish backtests are generally very, very positive. So in the sense here of this descending trend line, there's a really good chance that we're going to be pivoting and bouncing here soon. Now, once more liquidation levels do matter there, we have too much liquidation on one side or the other, which we had too many longs yesterday, they're going to get swept. It's kind of standard. We're also probably seeing this situation here where there's a shakeout before the news occurs. And when the news hits tomorrow, the price will probably respond the opposite direction of where we're heading. So between now and then, I actually welcome further downside so we can get a stronger recovery, okay? All that being said, top traders are still using large margins, kind of letting us know they're still very active in this range. And we can see institutional traders are starting to increase their positions, okay? So these are, in the center here, you see this is 0 to 100,000 K positions, and we're seeing more of them opening up, Okay, so that's a good sign overall. However, we can see anything over 100,000 is generally remaining dormant. So we're not seeing massive positions entering the market right now. So the whales are still, for the most part, kind of hanging out in sidelines. Ideally, they're waiting for the bottom. That's kind of the concept there. Now let's go ahead and take a quick look here at liquidation and open interest. On the right-hand side, we see 110,400. That's a specific number, but roughly 110K is that potential resistance for us. It was supposed to work as a support with open interest, but as per usual, we had a pretty significant correction this morning as soon as traditional markets opened, and that continuation from Asian markets from last night, that sell-off is happening, okay? It's very standard though, and if you look here at liquidation long delta, we're still in the green, believe it or not. So we have more longs than shorts in the market right now. So it leads me to believe we may see just a little bit further downside. I'm looking at the last 3 days on the left-hand side. This kind of tells us roughly where we're at for liquidation in the last 3 days. We have a really significantly large amount at 109, the low 109K range. So I think we might see 109 hit first before the price recovers. There's a pretty big gap there between there and the 107K, but 107 is the next potential stop for us. So further downside is possible. But when we look at liquidation delta, we haven't shifted bearish yet, so the overall sentiment here is still neutral to bearish, okay? Now, overall here, let's take a look at the daily and kind of recognize a few important factors. And the important thing here, I think, is just the fact that we haven't surpassed our moving averages yet. So I've been reinforcing this and reiterating it a lot. Even though altcoins are responding fairly well, all things considered, to these corrections and these pullbacks, albeit 2-to-1 ratio today, but normally a 1-to-1 ratio overall, we're in a position right now where we're still in the bearish side of things. And we got to respect the fact that Bitcoin can still pull back. So please understand, we're not in a really phenomenal situation here. But money flow index is starting to increase. We saw that stochastic swing to the upside here. While we haven't surpassed 50 in the RSI and our MACD is kind of saying F you right now, we're in a position where some positive indicators are starting to build up. Okay, that's the important thing. We're starting to look better. So once more, no sugarcoating, just kind of letting you know the overall sentiment there. We're transitioning positively, but we got to see if we can establish a higher low first. Now, what I mean by that is we haven't seen this higher low stop yet. So we're still on the way down until we bottom out and start to kind of increase. And only at that point or should we feel a little bit better about taking a position. Right now, you're trying to catch a falling knife. Just because this is a previous low or a recent high does not mean it's going to hold at 109.5K, right? Now, in a perfect world, we close above that level today, and that would give us some indication that we're in decent shape. But as I mentioned yesterday, closing below 112,000 would be disadvantageous for Bitcoin, and we saw that happen, okay? Now, once more, we were overextended leading into that resistance range. There's a whole lot of stuff there. And once more, that 115K range is more specifically the resistance for us. But all that considered here, Bitcoin is still not looking favorable. We lost some moving averages here. We created a fair value gap on the way up. We're under 50 in the RSI. Only thing really telling us here that we're in decent shape is money flow index remaining high, which tells us that we're starting to see more money flowing into Bitcoin at this lower price range. So that's emphasizing support in the 107 to 110K range. So that's the overall sense there. Is it good? Is it bad? No, it just is what it is. That's how the market is going to be at all times. You're never going to truly see a situation where it's like, oh, this is 110% the best thing ever, and we're just going to go balls to the wall. At best, you're going to get like an 80-90% probability of the price going in either direction. So anyways, just some heads up on that. Let's go ahead and take a quick look here at Ethereum next. If you're looking for a new exchange or possibly just want to help support the channel, Bitunix has got you covered. We've been partnered with this exchange for over 2 years. It's been our fan favorite for our community, and the reason why is because they take really good care of you. They offer trading reward bonuses as well as a reduction in fees. Best exchange I would recommend at this point. Link down below for more information. First things first with Ethereum, we want to recognize here first before we look at anything else at just the significant amount of open interest in $4,300 to $4,500 range. So that kind of reinforces that building as a resistance range. We're starting to see this channel being built here too, which leads me to believe we're in a bearish type of channel, basically a bearish rectangle. So we'll identify that on the charts here. Liquidation delta has shifted bearish, and once more, even though we have a significant resistance wall here at 4,500, that's a lot of liquidation. That's once more reinforcing resistance because it's that local high we could not pass. So shorts are heavy at 4,500. That's the easy way to understand it. Now let's take a look here at the current chart and just kind of recognize the daily time frame for Ethereum is breaking bearish, but hasn't fully broken yet, right? We're still above 50 on the RSI, albeit barely. Money flow index is remaining high. We're seeing a stochastic swing to the upside. The macro for Ethereum, actually, believe it or not, looks pretty decent. But once more, we do still have early signs of reversal here, maintaining below the 20-day SMA. So honestly, getting above 4,500 is really an important factor for Ethereum. We can close above 4,500. We're going to see that run to that all-time high, likely in that 5,000 range. But between now and then, there's nothing like super bullish. There's no hidden convergences. No Elliott wave theory is going to convince me that we're going to go higher from here. Now, of course, range-bound trading can be a legitimate thing. So let's talk about this. If you can kind of see here, there's a bit of a range. I'll just kind of make it a little more obvious for you. Between 42, I'm going to round up and say 4,300 and 4,500. Once more, that area of open interest. Now, looking at this, hypothetically, you could take a long at 4,300 and be good, right? The price should bounce from here. That's how range-bound trading is supposed to work. But there's no guarantees on that. However, I have noticed in the recent relative recent past, in the last 2, 3, or 4 months for Bitcoin and a lot of altcoins too, range-bound trading is a pretty successful scenario. So hypothetically, you should have some luck taken along at 4,300 here, okay? But once more, you got to recognize the more often you test the support, the more likely it is to break too. And the reason why this is more likely to break to the downside is because we originated from the upside. Generally speaking, bearish type of continuation patterns continue in the same direction they're heading, okay? So just bear in mind, we lose 4,300, we close below 4,300 today, that would be an indication of further downside. But furthermore here too, there's a lot of buts here, right? We can see the overall circumstance. There's a ton of support at 4,300 based on open interest and, of course, that point of control for this range here ever since August. So we're looking at about 1 month's worth of support at 4,300. So that does emphasize potential reversal here moving forward. Now, this does require Bitcoin to stop pulling back, okay? If you're going to take a long here, Bitcoin has to hold 109 or higher. That's a simple way to understand it. Okay, so that's Ethereum for you in a nutshell. Let's move on to Solana, see what's going on here. Solana is actually one of the few coins that looks pretty decent on the macro, just to kind of preface. I mentioned yesterday that I'd be interested in a long in the 205 to 204 range. Obviously, I'm not going to try to catch a falling knife. Bitcoin's pulling back harder than it should. And at this point here, there's an open interest support at about 201. So honestly, 200 to 201 seems much more favorable. I'd much rather wait for a long there that doesn't happen than try to FOMO into a long right now at 203 to 204. Liquidation long delta is still remaining high, which is good. And when we look at liquidation overall, there is still some left between now and 200. So once more, emphasizing 200 as a potential entry or consideration for a long. That's going to require Bitcoin to hit the 108K range though, okay? So just keep that in mind. Now, let's take a look here at the daily time frame and understand that we're still honoring our ascending trend. If you were to extend it out further, you'll see we are pretty consistent here in this ascending trend. Now, when we look at the RSIs, stochastic, all these things here, we can see there are some early divergence signs. So MACD's kind of losing momentum. You can only essentially establish higher highs and higher lows for so long. But if you look at this chart and you compare it with Bitcoin, Solana is looking still quite strong comparatively, right? So honestly, when you do take trades with altcoins, the best thing to identify is how well that coin is paired with Bitcoin or inversely paired. In this case, every time Bitcoin goes down, Solana goes down too, but it responds quicker to the upside every time. So we're establishing higher lows when Bitcoin's establishing lower lows. And that's just kind of the difference there. So that does reinforce strength on this coin. So minus the potential early signs of reversal, we have a lot of support in this range, and we got to presume it's going to hold until it doesn't. That's how continuation patterns work. So in this case here, we can presume the price will bounce here on the rough estimate of 200 to 202. Right there in that fib level, we can also see we're testing our local area of control at 204. That's half the reason why I was thinking a long at 204 would be appropriate. But once more, 4-hour time frame, it's breaking somewhat bearish. Okay, now, if you look at this though, and you look at its history, every time it broke bearish previously, it continues to go higher, right? So it's just one of those things where it's kind of a false positive here in the 4-hour, but also very much legitimate here, letting us know that we should expect further downside. So when you see stuff like this happen, a lot of times the best thing to do is just kind of wait on the sidelines for a better opportunity, okay? And it's hard to say what that better opportunity is going to look like, because between now and whenever that is, it's always going to change, and the market's just going to do what it does. So anyways, that's kind of where we're at there for Solana. Sorry, there's no definitive direction there. It's one of the few coins so far that we've looked at that does have a good macro structure. So taking a look here at SUI, let's go ahead and see in the back end here where we're at. So SUI, we have 330 as that point of, basically a point of control here locally. Mind you, this is the last 7 days of open interest. We've also got 320 as that support. So we're right in the middle of that channel there. We can see liquidation long delta still remaining, and we have less liquidation on the downside in the last 7 days, more to the upside. So this does emphasize the fact that we should see a relief rally and a continuation higher here for this coin with this potential, once again, potential bullish backtest of this descending trend. So looking at the 4-hour time frame though, I'm not going to even come close to giving you some consolation here because it does look bad. The macro looks pretty poor. There's no other way around it. While we're maintaining above the 200-day SMA, that's quite literally the only complementing factor here outside of like a tertiary stochastic swing to the upside. So don't attach yourself to stochastic swings. They are supposed to be used in conjunction with other bullish confirming factors. We don't see a lot of those right now. So truth is, along with this coin right now is super high risk. Same thing here as well. If we look at the 4-hour, we lost our local moving averages. We're under 50 on the RSI now. MACD is diverging. There's every reason here why a short position makes more sense than a long. I just don't really like the margins here. Once more, I'm going to stick to what I said previously. If we do see this low $3 range, 3 to 310 again for SUI, that does seem like a logical place to consider a long because there's some macro fib levels there. There's also some previous supports and a lot of reasons why that psychological support level should hold. But between now and then, we should presume that the price is going to go lower than go higher. That's kind of the safer play. Looking here at XRP, it's a very similar scenario. I am definitely not bullish on XRP, mainly because we're still under our descending trend line. We still haven't broken that yet. Getting over the 20 and or that descending trend line is a super important factor. We don't have that yet. And we look at the last 7 days, XRP is struggling to break this 280 to 285 range where we see a lot of open interest. Albeit longs are more present. We have more liquidation long delta than shorts. We're seeing that in the majority of the market right now. So all the more reason why a lot of these coins we're covering today should bounce pending Bitcoin doesn't run any further, right? Because we're starting to see that nice correlation. But furthermore, though, however, if we look at this here, 290 to 295 is that heavy area of interest with liquidation. What I mean by heavy area of interest is just that this is where the market makers are going to try to push the price to sweep any kind of late shorts. The reason why they do that is because the price will run after that and they can get in at a better value and essentially sell at that higher price point. So it's manipulation 101. Distinct probability we do see a short-term relief rally for this coin, but once more, I do not like what I see here so far on the charts. The daily time frame is fairly bearish, and then we look at the 4-hour. There's nothing here that's super impressive. Once more, we got that fair value gap and that chunk of liquidation. So I do think a short-term rally, if Bitcoin can bottom out at this 109.5K range, we will probably see the price push to 290, 295. But we're going to need a lot of volume to break through this key level resistance here, this descending trend, and the point of control at $3. So, if we're seeing weakness, like low volume to the 290s, that seems like a good consideration for a short. Once more, a lot of it depends on Bitcoin. But as per usual, XRP is moving very synonymous in a lot of ways with Bitcoin. So until Bitcoin can successfully remove its head from its ass, XRP will continue to do the same thing. So just some insight there for you. I hope that makes sense and I described everything correctly. Quick heads up, tomorrow we'll be rolling out with a new exchange that we're partnered with, essentially providing some phenomenal deposit rewards. And I'm going to be combining that as well with my Crypto Cash Premium account. So in other words, should be able to get some free premium as long as you were to use my link to register. We'll go ahead and check that out, see if that works out. I've gotten a lot of requests for something along those lines, and we'll see if that pans out for us. Either way, more information to come. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much again for being an amazing part of my life. We'll see you in the next one. Take care out there.